So, Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh. So today we are starting with Kabir Sahib's Bavan Akhari in Rag Gaudi. That's the Bani that everyone had decided last week and that we were to start. So, I mean, I know it's been a while since I have participated in this forum, but what I was hoping was we could each take a couple of minutes to introduce the concept that we have gotten from this Bani, as we, Jinni ki khoj assi kiti hai, whatever we have contemplated upon. If we can take a couple of minutes to just give us the context where we see this going, as Kabir Sahib introduces this Bani to us, in what context will you be presenting what it is that you want to talk about? And then we can get into it, starting with Bavan Achar Lok Tra. Would that be a fair way to start?
Indeed.
Okay. So the forum is open for anyone to start.
Gaurav, my recommendation would be that you actually call on people, because experience tells us that it's very unlikely that people will sort of step up.
Okay. Okay.
I can start because Anpo is quiet for now.
Hanji, go ahead, Vijay.
Very quickly, what means, like I was reading a little bit, read up to the first 7 stanzas, and it looks like, the first 7 or so stanzas, Kabir Ji is explaining the importance of letters and, importance of words and how we think through words. And then he brings us takes us into this journey where he says, with these words we can have worldly knowledge, and through these words somehow we can also have a discussion of the Onkar, even though he doesn't live within these words. And then he starts off with Kakka after that and starts explaining that Onkar, even though he says that doesn't live in those letters. So I'm seeing this as a manual to, like, for example, we have the experience of driving a car is different than reading the manual for that car, but reading the manual can be greatly helpful towards driving the car, or reading the driving instructions can be greatly helpful towards driving the car. So I see this as really breaking it down by letters as to what that journey could look like. So that's just my guess at where we are headed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, I've only really just scratched the surface. I think in the beginning here, but I was struck by sort of the meta conversation that's happening, because I feel sort of like this is talking about Bani, and maybe that's just an implication. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just sort of in implicit here. Maybe it's not explicit. But when we're talking about these letters, these words, I'm thinking that it's talking about the words of Gurbani, right? So I don't know if it's more generic than that, talking about letters that perish, letters that are may come and go. So, but of course, the creator is not coming and going, right? So the creator is permanent, and so there's kind of a distinction there, which I thought was interesting. And then the other part that struck me, I guess, just as far as this opening first couple of stanzas, was just sort of the compare and contrast between what's happening with words and absorbing words and connecting to the creator through words versus what's happening in your mind when there are no words. And so I was interested in this concept, and I'm not really clear 100% on the message here, but it does seem to be kind of pointing to the Creator is present in the words, and the Creator is present also outside of the words. But yet there's a line here. It says Ja'abul Tahman Ravaha Rahava. And then it says, so that's the translation here is that about the mind. So when there's no speech, maybe the mind is empty, and so I don't know if the Creator is present when there's no words describing it. So it's a little bit confusing here in terms of what's being discussed, but that's as far as I've gotten, really.
Interesting. Gurjeet Virji, are you able to speak? I still see a mute selected.
वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा वाहिगुरु जी की हाँ जी
हाँ जी वीर जी तुसी
वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा
वाहिगुरु जी की फतेह
हाँ जी this Bani is in Rag Gaudi, and this is one of the complete Bani written by Bhagat Kabir ji. And then later on these lines, we have got another three Banis in Gurbani. To elaborate it, like Guru Nanak has to write Patti, almost similar lines. Then Guru Amar Das has to write the Patti, and then also Mahalla Panjma has to write Bavan Akhari again. So Akhar has got a real importance in Gurmat, that if you want to connect to your Brahma, your Chetan, your mood, you need some sort of knowledge. That knowledge is to be read by your man. So it's very clear in the first few Pauris, Kabir ji makes it very clear. But if you study the word Akhar, Akhar is different to Shabad. So this Bani clearly distinguishes that the context which we are reading, the Gurbani, is not a Shabad Guru. This is Akhar basically, and Akhar is something which we symbolize, and then Akhars join to become words, and word becomes sentences. So to the consciousness, to the sentient Brahma through Akhars, and the word Bavan normally has been but in this Bani there are only 45 Pauris, and if they have been 52 Pauris, the word Bavan in Gurbani means minimum. The Brahma has got two forms, which also is very nicely explained by Kabir ji. So this basically is interaction between your man, which is also sentient, and also your chit through words. And he's trying to slowly tell you that we have to define originally when we start what is Allah. So Bavan won't mean 52, but Hindu scriptures have not understood this theme, and they have ultimately made 52 letters, thinking that Bavan means that we have the supreme Brahm Gyan. But Bavan here, there is only 34 letters. There are some repetitions you will see with letter Mamma, and there is 3 times the advice is through Kakha. So this is just a basic of what I could understand, that it indicates it's not a Shabad Guru, it's an Akhar Guru. You have to understand how letters, like we do in English, A for apple, B for ball, and in Punjabi, U for Uda. But in Brahmagyan, Uda should be related to Omkar, Ada should be related to Allah. And then we need to define those words from within Gurbani. So I'll say that much. Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh.
Hanji, Gurjeet Veer Ji?
I think Gurjeet Veer Ji finished. Dilpreet Veer Ji.
Dilpreet Birji, sorry. Okay.
Anjali, so I was also looking into this, that why the number 52 has been used first. So what I figured out was that Hindi is written in the script Devanagari and it is normally spoken using combination of 52 sounds. So they have 10 vowels, 2 modifiers and 40 consonants. And Punjabi also has a similar thing, but the numbers were different. Punjabi had 10 or 9 vowels, and then it had 40 alphabets, and then it had 5 modifiers. So I think, to me, this 52 means that everything what we read, write, or speak is combination of some knowledge or some sounds which we produce or what we learn. So it represents that part. It can represent any script. So it was a common saying that a script consists 52. I think that's what it means. And then this Bani is written by Bhagat Kabir ji. And as this Bani starts, Guru Sahib has written the Mool Mantra to start. It says Ekumkar, Satnam, Karta Purak and Gur Prasad. So this is the short version of Mool Mantra. So whenever any new Bani starts in Guru Granth Sahib or the Jap Bani starts or Sukhmani Sahib, so the Mool Mantra is repeated in the front of it. So it represents, or the way I am looking at it is that it sets the boundaries and it authenticates. Like it reminds me that when Guru Arjan Dev Ji was compiling the Guru Granth Sahib, then some Bhagats came and they said that can you introduce our Bani in it? Then Guruji said that this is not matching to the parameters of Guru Nanak or it is not in line. So what that Kaswati I think is what Mool Mantra. And now even in Patbani or everywhere Guruji has introduced Mool Mantra in front of it to certify that this meets the Guru Nanak's definition or the principles or this is in line with the principles laid by the Mool Mantra. So that is why I think the Mool Mantra is there in front of it. And then, as Veerji said, Guru Nanak Dev Ji also wrote Patti and then Guru Arjan Dev Ji wrote Bavan Akhari also. So again, the way I was looking at it is that everything should remind us of the existence of the Creator and it should remind and make us do or make us in line with Gurbani's teaching. So these words we use every day, we see these words around us, and so we live in the world where words are very common. And then if we have this Bavan Akhari or any Patti or any Bani, every time we use the words, it should remind us one of the Guru's teachings or Gurbani, and it should remind us of Creator's existence and let us do or bring us in the hukam back. And so I think that that is why these banis were written where these words or the consonants were used, so that when we use them or we look at them, it should remind us of something and we should implement Guru's teaching. I think that's to start. Thank you, Ji.
Okay, thank you, Virji. Ravinder Virji,
Haji.
once more back to you. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੀ ਆ ਜਾਓ.
Well, I mean, to me, what struck me is the very fact that at the very outset, you have the two lines that caught my eye. And essentially what it's telling me is that the subject of our conversation, Kalpur, is essentially, it transcends speech. That's what I'm getting out of the very introduction here. So I think it's a reminder that Bavan Achar Log Tara, in other words, these 52 sounds can be, there can be combinations of these sounds to give you worldly knowledge, but Kabir ji moves on to say, in other words, these will dissipate Oye akhar inme nahe. Oye is referring to that transcendent one that we are all trying to grasp. So to me, this boils down to a reminder about the limitations of language and speech. Thank you, Ji.
Thank you, Virji. So when I was reading these, and I also went up until about Oankar, what I was getting from this was that we use language to create and define everything that we know, our life, the world as we see it. त्रै लोक दी गल आई सीगी, that people have taken that to mean different things. However, whatever we take it to mean, we construct it in ourselves via language, and that has a very strong relation with our man. And when we try and relate with that which is indefinable, which is undefined, which is in the realm of the unknowable, unreachable, and we try very hard through our language to grasp at it. I think Kabir Sahib is, and I think all of you have touched upon that, and that's also what I'm getting, is that everything we do is through the mind, and we go outside and try and grasp at it. However, there is something in between what can be spoken and that which cannot be explicated. There is something in between that, and there are extra dimensions to our relating with the world as it is. And that is where the akhar, the letters through which my world, which is generated, it actually is aligned with the one, which is imperishable. So essentially what we are creating is something that continues to perish. And it is because it is by its very nature, it's limited and limiting. And that's something that I'd like to explore with all of you. Thank you. So if it's okay with everyone, I would invite someone, perhaps Gagan Virji, if you could read maybe the first through the Oankar before we get into the letters. For instance, from the Devanagari script, which starts with the Kakka.
Sorry, Viji, I am with Anpao and he's.
Okay, कोई गल नहीं. दिलप्रीत वीर जी तुसी पढ़ोगे?
हाँ जी पढ़ दें एक सेकंड.
So what are you asking us to read? I'm sorry.
Just the first 6 ਜਿਹੜੇ ਬੰਦ ਹੈਗੇ ਨੇ ਨਾ, first line up to Oankar, so that we kind of have the context before we get into each letter and what it personifies, because these are setting the context. Okay. Does that seem fair?
Yeah.
Or we can do, I think, one party at a time, or whatever way you want to.
Virji, जिमें तनु ठीक लगता है. तो एक तो शुरू करना है. Let's start with एक Oankar and let's start with the first.
Okay.
So we can all be present.
Okay, so it starts with Ik Oankar Satnam Karta Purakh Gur Prasad. बावन अक्षर लोक त्रय सब कछ इन्हीं माहे यही अक्षर खिर जाएंगे ओह अक्षर इनमें ना है. So do you want us to explain this or you want me to?
हाँ जी, absolutely.
वीर जी एक मिनट वीर जी, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪੜਨ ਚ ਥੋੜੀ ਉਕਾਈ ਹੈ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ.
हाँ जी.
Can I correct it?
हाँ जी जरूर.
52 अक्षर लोक त्रय सब कुछ इन्हीं माहे.
हाँ जी.
ए अक्षर खिरी जाएंगे ओ अखर इनमें ना है. The second word is not अक्षर.
हाँ जी.
ओ सिंगुलराइज है ओ अखर. You have to read it अखर. इनमें ना है. That will be better.
हाँ जी.
ठीक है जी. Thank you.
So the way I was looking at this first was that with this 52 sounds or whatever script we use, so it is representing any script because Bani is unified and universal, and whatever we learn with these scripts, and then but at the same time Kabir Sahib is setting the context that we cannot define the infinite with something which is finite, because every sound or every consonant or every letter which we use, it has a finite meaning, but the infinity, and then as we have been seeing in Japji Sahib also, that Guru Nanak Dev Ji has been explaining that you cannot define the infinite with some finite rules or finite definitions. So he has always left it open because it is continuously changing and adaptive. That's how I see it. So I think this is completely in line with that, that whatever we learn or whatever language or tools we use, they have their limitations, and the creator is beyond limitations, because whatever we have known, bahta kahiye bahta hoye, whatever we learn or we define, and tomorrow we will learn more about it, and we will keep exploring and learning more and more about it, so that we cannot put a finite definition. I think this is representing the same concept. Thank you, Ji.
Thank
So
you.
can I ask a question of the panel, Gaurav?
Hanji, Hanji.
So I find the use of the word achar first and akhar subsequent to that interesting. So there is Bavan achar, log tere sab kuch inhi mein hai, ye akhar khir jayenge. So is there a distinction between the two?
Hanji Virji, can I reply?
Hanji, Hanji. That's what.
ਸੰਸਕ੍ਰਿਤ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਅਕਸ਼ਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ, ਸੰਸਕ੍ਰਿਤ ਵਾਲੇ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਅਕਸ਼ਰ ਲਿਖਦੇ ਹਨ. They have a special shirt to write that word. Akshay means to lose its identity. Akshay hona. But if when you write something through the letters, the knowledge doesn't decrease; it stays there. It's a written record. So Kabir ji has definitely put the word akshar, which is actually related to akshar, which is normally an akshar, but still, he only wants to tell you that although there are 52 letters, what Pandits think, but the Bhagats don't think that way. That actually is reminded in the end.
So Vijay,
That
let's
through
take,
your language.
okay, if I may, since I have you on, I'm trying to sort of, I think I'm not the only one looking for clarity here. Perhaps I'm articulating something that a lot of people. So let's take the first few words here. Bavan achar log tere. What is he trying to say here? If we were to just concentrate on this Bavan achar log tere. Log tere, log, I suppose, is referring to the material world, or to the world as we know it, as Gaurav alluded to earlier. And then sab kich in himai. Can we kind of just focus on what is being said here? How is log related to Bavan achar?
Okay, Bavan achar is, I will say, minimum. There, you need some minimum language, minimum sort of words to describe your Brahm. Like you normally say in English, you need 1500 words if you want to communicate with someone. So Bavan certainly doesn't mean 52, because here he has only given us 34. Kabirji hasn't used the Dada, which is our last letter. So he wants to relate us that you need some words, some sounds to relate to your Brahm. And that Brahm is only in 3 loks, because in the 4th lok is Puran Brahm. So the 3 loks as mentioned in Gurbani is your Matlok.
Can you help us with what you mean by relate to your Brahm? Is it relating to yourself and each other?
See, the mind has to relate back to it's from where it originates. That is the Brahm. The Gurbani actually relate us to Brahm, not to Vaheguru first. You will see.
So it's relating to yourself then. Is it? It's actually
relating to yourself first. Then once you are complete, then you relate to the Shabad. So this is a Gur Shabad. Gur Shabad relates your man to yourself. But there will be a lot of similes, and because metaphors use a bowl, you can't say everything in Maya, because there's nothing like Brahm. Whatever he will try to explain us will still be limited, as Dilpreet Virji has said. there's a limitation in Maya, but the Brahm is unlimited. But he said, I will try to say something in metaphoric or whatever the Brahm language is about the three loks. The Brahm is in three loks, but in the fourth lok is Puran Brahm. So this is all related to the three loks.
We need just
One
add to that question, like fourth log ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਭਾਈ ਸਾਹਿਬ?
fourth ਲੋਕ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਦੀ ਜੀ। ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ ਤਿੰਨ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਤੱਕ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਸੀਮਿਤ ਰੱਖਦੀ ਹੈ। ਚੌਥੇ ਲੋਕ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਉਹ ਇੰਨਾ ਕਹਿ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਚੌਥੇ ਲੋਕ ਚ ਪਰਮ ਪਦ ਮਿਲਦਾ।
So Vijay, just a second here. Gaurav, I don't mean to hijack.
No, please go ahead. Go ahead.
But I want to sort of stick to at least the literal meaning of the words before we get into more interpretation. So it says Bhavanachar Lok. I get that you need speech for communication, either with your own mool or yourself or with each other. And then it goes on to say Sab Kach in hi mahe. Now I understand Sab Kach to mean everything is encompassed in these sounds. Is that fair to say? Is that an accurate?
That's fair to say. Yeah.
So then, if everything is encompassed in these, then what's left out?
The fourth lok is left out.
No. I'm trying to. So let's stick to. There is no mention of fourth lok here, Vijay. So let's stick to what I'm trying to drive at is we can come to the same conclusion if we look at the following line. A akhar khir jayenge, o akhar in maina. Akhar, as you said, o imperishable jada hai, o in akharan ch nahi hai.
Nahi hai. That's why. Yep.
So we can just read the lines and begin to understand that Kabir ji is referring to letters of the alphabet here, Bavan Akhari. It became Bavan Akhari because that was the popular usage at the time. But what he's telling you here is that is perhaps adequate for defining, describing the material world as you see it through your senses, the empirical world. However, the imperishable one is not to be captured with these words. You can't. I think that is the essence of how I catch these two lines.
Because you have to read it from other Banis. Kabir says, "Log jane ek geet hai, ye to Brahm vichar." This is not telling you about the material world. This is separating you from material world. Ye Brahm vichar hai. That's what Kabir ji says. People think it's written in rhyme, might be a poetry.
That is true, but you begin somewhere. So when you start with
you have
language,
to begin somewhere.
Yes, you start there and then
even
you
a letter. See, so from letters, from dates of months, from days of your Tithi sees the Brahm. And how you relate to Brahm, that's what his aim is.
Yeah, so Gaurav, if I may, if you could direct us to really focus on the lines and the words, and then we build on them slowly.
Yes, actually, I totally agree with you, Virji. I think, Virji, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ, actually, it's building up to what you are suggesting, and it's a hypothesis that we will get to test as we work through these lines. So let me also offer what I'm seeing in here. It's very similar, but perhaps a slightly different take. Is that everything that I see. ਹੁਣ ਇੱਥੇ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਗੁਰੂ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ, ਅਸੀਂ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਗੁਰੂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ, ਇੱਥੇ ਗੱਲ ਅੱਖਰਾਂ ਦੀ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ। ਹੁਣ ਅੱਖਰਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਜੋੜ ਕੇ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਬਣ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ। So this is sort of the raw
material. ਨਹੀਂ, ਸ਼ਬਦ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਜੀ ਉਹ। ਨਹੀਂ, ਸ਼ਬਦ is related to sound.
ਜੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਦੱਸਦਾ ਨਾ, ਹੁਣ ਮੈਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਅਪਰੋਚ ਹੈ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਣ ਦੀ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ।
And can you stick to English? We have Eileen sitting here, doesn't understand.
I apologize, Eileen. So and if I do stray into Punjabi, please let me know, Eileen.
We'll rein you in.
Thank you. So the raw material that I use to build the world as I see it, because the way that I deal, and as human beings we deal with the world, is by definition. We try and fix everything we know, everything we understand. Anytime I start talking about Gurbani with people, some of the first questions people ask is, how do you define this? Like, we want to fix something in a box and we want to preserve that and work off of that. So I think the Tra Lok, the three domains or the three worlds, or however we want to look at this, and I would even play with time past, present, and future, is that however we see the world, we define it, we build it in the blocks of letters. And the Bavan represents all letters in any language. It is the construction of the world via some media. And whatever it is that I'm using, I am living within that. My universe is sab kuch in hi mein. It is all of it that I know or can know through language is within that. And akhar, through which I construct the world and my interpretation of the world, these will perish. Because as my own knowledge grows, as my own wisdom shines upon me, I find all my definitions falling apart. That these words were insufficient. These letters through which I built the knowledge that I have was insufficient, and it continues to grow and expand and break. But the one that I seek, oyakar, the ones that do not perish, they are not built from this particular methodology.
You may want to ask some others for their thoughts.
Yes.
Gaurav, I think some people haven't had a chance.
Eileen?
Yeah, this is really helpful. I'm still trying to figure out, I guess, akhar is, what is the definition of akhar used here then in this line? Akhar and oy akhar. What is that? Does it mean a letter, or does it mean imperishable?
Both.
The first one means letter. The second one, we are trying to get a consensus that it means akhar. If you break it, it means khar means breakable. Akhar means unbreakable.
It's unbreakable.
Mm-hmm.
So achar in the other line means letter, and here akhar means
Could mean either one, depending
either one. Okay, but so it's just context. Okay.
Yeah.
So in Hindi, it's called akshar. A short form of that is achar.
Okay.
Hanji,
Yeah.
that's how we do it in Gurmukhi. We don't have that sh there.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Hanji, and Pushpinder Virji just joined us. Has he been? Hanji Virji.
As I said earlier, that I didn't have a chance to read anything, but by listening to enlightened people like you, my feeling is, again, it comes back to the limitation of the letters, and it goes back to the experience. What Gurbani is saying all the time, that it's not the knowledge, but the experience of that knowledge. And each person is going to use the same words maybe, but our experience is going to grow over time, and that experience you cannot put into words. And that's what it says, oh, occur in me nahe. My understanding, what I'm getting after listening to you, the people who spoke, is that the limitation of the letters to have to communicate through words can express only so much. But we are talking about an abstract reality, and that cannot be defined by any tangible words. And we have to experience, everybody is going to have individual experience, which they may not be in a position to put into words or explain to anybody. Even Japji Sahib, Guru Sahib ne, he has written many times, what we are talking about, we are trying to describe something which cannot be described. And I think this is what I'm understanding, that these letters and the words will fall apart if we go beyond certain limit where we want to go, where Gurbani wants to take us. That's my understanding. Crude understanding, though.
Thank you.
So can I add a little bit to that? So, Virji makes an important point. I mean, it is not simply that the one or the imperishable is, transcends speech. My thought is that when we speak of our experience to each other, something always remains unsaid. You just can't capture it completely in words, because how I interpret a word or what I think concept is may not be exactly what Gaurav thinks it is. And even if he does, there's no way for me to know that he's thinking exactly the same thing.
Yes. Very good point.
And That's exactly, if we are talking about one thing, you're talking about a table or chair. Of course, even to draw a picture, everybody might have different concept. But here we are talking about something. Even Guru Nanak Sahib says there's such an abstract thing. It's not only that we have a definite thing in front of us to explain, where we differ in our emotions, in our experiences, but there are two different sources of variations coming in. One is that we have a fixed thing standing in front of us, we are still different, but if the thing is not fixed in our mind, we are adding another variation, and that is what it's saying. That all these things are going to fall apart. Everybody is going to have an individual, different experience. Hanji.
Yes. Um,
Hanji, there is a limitation of akhar. Ki akhar khir jayenge. These letters which we have written, slowly, with time, everything is rusting. Even the paper is rusting. So these things will be rusting as well. But they talk about an akhar who is not within this, but his knowledge is in this. So those times people used to worship letters. And if you don't take me wrong, we presently in Sikhism are basically worshipping the letters. We are not trying to find the akhar from within these akhars. The akhar is all the subject of Khoj. That's how you research things. So Kabir ji, I think, want to say this thing with the stress that don't start to worship this, but try to get the gyan out of these letters and words.
So I think what VG is saying is that these are pointers and intimations. So, they're pointing in a certain direction, and that's what you should catch on to.
Hanji, exactly.
Yeah. Any other thoughts regarding this line?
I have one other thought which Ravinder Virji started, because when he was asking a specific question that sab kach inhi maahe, so that started another thought that Bavan achar lok tray sab kuch inhi maahe, that what we know, or it is representing the knowledge, and it is also representing the three loks. So the another concept of Gurbani, which is that the creator is in the creation, and now we understand the creator and creation, or the creativity in this form, because that is what our knowledge is, our today's understanding is. But ye akhar khir jayenge, but this again he is saying that the form may change, because this many times this creation has happened, and this creation has reoccurred, or it was destroyed. So this creation may get destroyed, but that creator will still be there, and the creativity will again start. So I think it is also representing that universal message of Guru Nanak, that creator is in the creation, but even if this creation is destroyed and it is recreated, he will still exist in that recreation. Thank you.
Thank you, Virji. Actually, there's a point in there that you touched upon that I was hoping to bring in, which is, ਅਸੀਂ ਦੇਖ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਮੂਲ ਨੂੰ, we've got ਇੱਕ ਓੰਕਾਰ ਸਤਨਾਮ ਕਰਤਾ ਪੁਰਖ ਗੁਰ ਪ੍ਰਸਾਦ. And it was interesting to me that Karta Purakh was the one that was used here instead of the full form, or others mixed in. And I think there's an aspect of the creator and the creative being that is present here, because letters through which we build are the same. But the letters itself could be weak, and the ones that don't really stay with us, they are perishable. And the same ones, if used creatively, used in a manner that is different. And Kabir Sahib gives us examples later using the k, g, and every other letter. The meaning is transcendent, and it constructs something for us which does not perish. The raw material is the same.
Right. I think it is going towards that, because again Guruji talks that the creator is in the creation, and again this creation is Nashvant and it is recreated again, but that creator, which the creativity will still remain, it is that the raw material will still remain. So I think it is another way to look at it.
Okay. Are we okay with moving to the second? Okay. I hear some hesitation. Does anybody have something to say, or would somebody like to read?
Would you? Would somebody like
Is
to
three
do
loaves
like a?
clear?
Would
Three
somebody like
loaves
to do a
legality.
summary of what of this line? Like,
Read to Sigaro. Please, Gaganji.
so what I've heard from all the different people was, Bavan achar lok terai sab kich inhi mai. There was this conversation around Bavan Akhar being the raw material of language and conversation, and there was also this other point around Bavan just means the bare minimum raw material needed to explain Brahmgyan, which both actually converge to the same point. Bavan Achar, Lok Trai, and then the point around Lok was that we we built our three loks. It could be past, present, future. It could be in the womb, now, and afterlife. It could be the three mystical loks of the Vedas. But we build our three lok and we define them through our akhars. And our existence is defined within these three. And a akhar khir jayenge, oe akhar inme na hai. That our descriptions here, or our way of looking at these things, or our definitions are temporary and transient, but that akhar that we are moving towards, that is not. And one of the VLGs referred to that as the fourth lok, and the others referred to it as the abstract Sat or Ikonkar that we are moving towards. So that's what I have gathered in a summary over here, and I think we all are kind of gathering this as we move forward.
We are. Hanji Ravindra Virji, would you like to read the second line?
I was actually questioning whether we want to start the second line at 9:50 Eastern Standard Time. Would it be? I'm just throwing this out.
How much time
there.
do we have?
We have about 10 minutes.
Oh.
I would suggest that we should read the first, 7 or 8 stanzas together, and then come back for the second line next time.
That sounds good. Ravindra Virji, would you do us the honor?
I can read the second, third, and fourth. Let's see. Okay. All right. Let's start then. Jah bol teh achar awa, jah abol teh man na rohawa. Bol abod mad hai soi, jas oh hai tas lakhe na koi. Allah laho tau kya kaho, kaho ta ko upkar, bhatak beej mein rav rayo, ja to teen lok bisthar. Allah lahanta bed chhe, kach kach payo bed, ulat bed man bedyo, payo bhang ached. Oankar aad mein jana, no, sorry. Turk tariqat janiye, Hindu Ved Puran, man samjhavan karane, kachua ka padiye gyan. And then he goes on to Oankar aad mein jana, लिखर मेटे ताहे न मानना ओंकार लखे जो कोई सोई लख मेटना न होई. Hanji.
Okay. So I think we can sort of get a feeling of where this is headed.
Hanji.
Sure.
Actually, Gaurav, I'm sorry, we have not reached out to Harvinder Singh. The tradition is that we always reach out to him at the end.
Okay, Harvinder Singh. It's all yours.
Hanji, welcome. No, I think Gaurav Gagan gave a very good summary. I think what we discussed, and I always get very fascinated by this Bani because it is not, I think, very easy to understand with the existing tikas. And I try to go over multiple tikas, and they make sense, but somehow they doesn't give the complete picture. And the idea is that during this discussion, the way today we get all the feedback, it was very good because now we have a lot of different angles to look at this Bani. And I think I don't have much to add here, except that I agree that like what what I understood that Kabir ji is saying that it is not easy to define the Vaheguru or Mool or wherever we want to reach through the letters or the words. So the thought process is much deeper than the words or the alphabets.
Thank you. Actually, even when you were mentioning this summary and Gaganji was summarizing, the question that kept coming up for me was to do with what exactly are we attempting to get to? You know, are we attempting to get to the Ik Oankar, or is it more of a relation with, or the unity with, or the union with the Ik Oankar, and is talking about the process? So I think this Oe Akhar, for me, it's not terribly clear yet, and I think the next Paudiyan will open that up, perhaps, and make it explicit as to what exactly is the objective, what is being talked about here. Is it understanding the infinite or something else?
No, it's not understanding. It's more to be how to form relationship. We don't even have a relationship with him yet. So just from a very basic understanding of these letters and how the Brahm is in the nature, we will form some sort of relationship, and then we build up from there. And he will start with Allah lahon to kya karoon. Firstly, you have to go to Allah. Oankar comes in the 7th Pauri. So we need to define Allah from within Gurbani. We'll do it next time.
So, if I may just add to what Virji has just said, you know, he mentioned that it's not understanding but a relationship, and I would say absolutely, because I think the very nature of understanding is limited, and to me it seems that the point being made here is that after you've tried to understand over time, you come to the conclusion that this whole business about quote unquote understanding itself is really not adequate. That is not where you want to be. And you know, understanding, intelligence, and language and speech are all correlated. The other point I want to make is that, you know, Harvinder mentioned the fact that he finds going to the tikas somewhat unsatisfactory. And I share that feeling with him, in part because the tikas were written many years ago. And, you know, the mode of thinking that we are in today is different. So I want to make a suggestion. This is something that I do in my own private investigations, but I can share it with you. It seems to me that science today has given us some vocabulary. It has given us vocabulary that can help us perhaps expand our understanding of Gurmat. You know, not replace it, but perhaps amplify it a little more. So when we talk about Chautha Lok or Chautha Pad and get tangled in it, you know, the word quantum comes to my mind. Perhaps there is a quantum self that we don't know about that this is pointing to. Just a thought.
That's very good thought, Jerry. The one which just came, and of course the one before that too. That we are to bring that additional information which previously we thought we just want to stay within. Yes, good to stay within, but using the supplementary tools we can understand Gurbani. But coming back to the question you asked, why we are doing this one? My thinking is that the whole purpose of what we are doing here is to understand Gurbani, and to the very first word Guru Nanak Sahib said for the first age is to become Satyara. That's the whole purpose of the entire Gurbani, is how to become Satyara. It's not very easy. And next line which says Hukam Rajai Chalna. To understand Hukam, I spent about 2 weeks on that one. It takes me, I shake when I start to imagine, start to think about these things, that where Guru Sahib is taking us to understand the concept. Your body shakes, that your abstract knowledge stops after some time too. It's not, you can take a flight to that level. The point I'm making is, yes, we should bring, as pointed, this supplementary knowledge, the tools we have to understand Gurbani, and to understand Gurbani, the goal is to become Sachara. That's all that the whole Guru Nanak Sahib wants us to do. Even Guru Nanak says that we can't describe at a call for how can you meet with him. There's no description of that. He said there's nothing we can describe. It's a matter of experience only. We can experience that. That's through becoming Sachara. Sachara means you're connected with such, and that is what I'm thinking about.
I think that is an invitation. The way I hear it is an invitation for us to actually share experientially, and not only obviously we're going to derive using all the tools that are available, including science, but because we are going to be talking about an experiential wisdom, I would invite that as we go down these paudiyan, that we share something of ourselves, so that our experience comes to bear within this, and it's not merely intellectual.
Yeah, I would just say I would really appreciate that too, because I think the way I understand what we're being asked in some ways is to kind of imagine ourselves as this other, better person, right? If I'm trying to imagine myself as becoming, closer to the Creator and becoming Satyara, I don't know what that's like. I can't grasp it because I haven't been there yet. And so with this limitation on what I can gather from words, right? It's explained right here how limiting it is. Then there's only one other way, right? Which is to kind of try to experience it. So, the more we can learn from that would be great.
Great. On that note, we are just in time to stop the vichar. It's time.
Hanji.
So
If I
thanks
can say
everybody.
one thing, Virji.
Hanji.
So the other thing for the panelists, I think we can touch on it next week, that Guru Nanak Dev Ji wrote Patti and Bhagat Kabir Ji wrote, and Guru Arjan Dev Ji also wrote, Guru Amar Das Ji. Was there any trend, or why was this chosen? Or was that any style or something, that why everybody ended up writing on these letters? And is there any rationale behind that, or it was the concept followed by all the preachers or all the writers that let's write about letters? So if anybody can bring any thoughts next week, I think we can and share, that might help.
Sure. We can share our speculation. And are we okay then? And next time we'll start with the second and our own research.
Hanji, Fateh ji ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ।
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ।
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ